Hello everyone, Canberra here, and whilst Football Manager is at the end of its current cycle, I thought I'd take a look at the closed beta for Marvel's Rivals, an upcoming team shooter from NetEase Games collaborating with Marvel Studios for PC, PS5 and Xbox Series X. I was given an invite code to the closed beta by someone I know through a Discord server, and I've actually had quite a lot of fun with it. In short, Rivals is, to put it in the simplest terms, Overwatch but with Marvel characters. A 6v6 team shooter where teams fight over objectives such as control points or moving convoys. The main differences being the third-person camera view and the ability to combine characters for team-up abilities that do anything from boosting damage to straight-up reviving allies upon death. You can have quite a lot of combinations. I think there's about 10 or 12. A lot of it depends on how the roster works together. The roster itself for the closed beta is impressive, boasting 23 characters from across the Marvel Universe with city heroes like Spider-Man and Punisher, right through to Omega-level mutants like Magneto and Storm. All of these characters have the standard role of DPS, tank, and support, though they do go by different names in the game, DPS being Duelist, tank being Vanguard, and support being Strategist. Why they've done that, I don't know. I guess they just wanted to do something a little bit different. For now, there are only two maps, in the fact that there is 2099 Tokyo, or Shin Shibuya, and Asgard. They both look very good, they're very well detailed, though they are a little rough in some of the rendering aspects. But bear in mind this is a very early beta, so it's probably a little bit rough here and there. With 3 modes in each. You have the kind of the standard, a little bit unoriginal. There is the convoy, where you move a certain objective to a convoy to an objective. And you obviously have your standard control point game, where it's sort of almost like a King of the Hill aspect, where you have to control and hold point. There is also a third mode called Conquest, which is sort of separate from the other two, which is basically a first to 30 deathmatch for those who kind of just want to play damage characters and go crazy with each other. To its credit, while I've been playing it, the game runs perfectly on up-to-date hardware. I've recently updated my laptop to a more modern edition. I've traded in my old one and put that towards getting a new laptop. I've managed to get Rivals running at 60 FPS on HDE on this updated laptop, though there are certain things which cause the frames to drop. Storm and Venom's ultimates have been very, very annoying. They do kind of eat the frame rate. It does run fairly soon. The gameplay is quite fun. It goes at a really fast pace when teams really go at each other, and it really does place an importance on cohesion and teamwork. If you really did love Overwatch back in the day, especially after they locked one of each character, because that is something that Rivals does. So when you pick one character, somebody else then can't pick it. I would definitely recommend Marvel Rivals. There are some issues though. They do have a mechanic for destructible environments, which do probably need readjusting. It is a fun concept, but when you're in a third-person camera mode, it does kind of get a little bit annoying because you can tend to have your view blocked by destructive scenery at the worst possible moment. I have been killed once or twice because I couldn't see my opponent through a damaged wall. That and some of the second-floor surfaces are very unreasonably brittle. You can effectively have some walkways become incredibly inaccessible right from the bat due to either teammates or enemies destroying the environment in a fight, which can effectively make it much more difficult to get certain objectives, which if you do end up in a situation where you or your opponent has already taken a point, it can be quite unfair for the other side to try and walk an extra long way to get around where the destruction has taken away some of the arena. The other issue, I would say that there is some issues with balancing during the game. I'm going to put up the tier list that I was sent by somebody on the screen now, and it is pretty accurate. The only thing I'd say is maybe put Hela into the S tier. My biggest gripe in terms of the characters is that Venom is far too strong. He does decent damage, and one of his abilities spawns bonus health that only spawns more health the more damage he takes. It makes him incredibly hard to deal with, especially when there's another tank behind him providing a shield. And he's still able to dish out quite a lot of damage. Considering he's a tank, I do think he does a little bit too much damage. And to add to the whole regeneration thing, Venom has the second highest health in the game, behind Groot. So, on top of the health that he already has, being so high, he can also spawn bonus health. It makes him an absolute nightmare to deal with, and this is a guy who's playing as Magneto as a main, and that already can be quite challenging with all the shields and kind of buffs that Magneto can provide. Other than that, a lot of the balancing relates to certain moves and the damage output. Scarlet Witch's ultimate can be extremely annoying to deal with, as it will one-shot you even if you're on full health, if you're caught right in the center of it. And Punisher's turret literally brings back Overwatch 1 Bastion flashbacks. It does a huge amount of damage while being very difficult to stop, as it is quite tanky. I played Punisher, I've effectively managed to get quite a few hits in it, and that's just for playing Punisher for like 20 minutes. It drains health fairly quickly. On a minor note, there are also some issues connecting into games, but they'd be fairly rare for me. It's just a couple of matches where I've ended up spawning in fairly late, like 5 seconds before the match begins. So I have to try and rush, especially when you're on defense. You end up having to try and rush the point and hope your team doesn't suffer without you. I think the balancing and environment issues are something that can be potentially dealt with as the closed beta goes on, along with what will eventually be, obviously, they'll be going to an open beta and then obviously a full release. Other than that, I can only really ask for more maps and more characters, which I'm sure they will do in the future. They've just released Thor and Jeff the Landshark. They will be in the future releasing Psylocke and Wolverine. I have a few requests myself. Primarily, I'd like to see members of the Sinister Six, Spider-Man's Rogues Gallery, make it in, particularly Rhino and Vulture. Other than that, I quite like Daredevil being in the game, which would be good, especially when that he has a show coming up. Overall, I've had a lot of fun with Rivals. It does need a little bit of ironing out, but it is still a closed beta. And it is the way it goes, where it is incredibly fun. With a little bit of progress, I think it will actually put the final nail into Overwatch's coffin. Overwatch has already taken a ton of grief over the last year or so since they released Overwatch 2. And I think Marvel Rivals may well kill it for good. And it will become a major game in the team shooter genre. If you do want to get a hold of the code for the closed beta, they drop them in batches on the game's official Twitch channel. So they do it for releases for PS5, for Xbox, and for PC. The current batch has just finished. I have to know when the next round will be released, because they were only doing it through to like July 31st on the date that I'm actually recording this. You'll have to keep an eye on when the next release is, so it'll be the third batch. I am going to try and get a couple of codes for my friends, because I'd quite like them to try and get into the game as well. I know they'd really enjoy it. Anyway, if you've enjoyed this, feel free to leave a like. If you want to see more, you can always subscribe. I'll be bringing Football Manager content back around about September, when we get the first real news at Football Manager 25, which is going to be the biggest Football Manager yet. Until then, I might do the odd video here or there. I might take a look at 40k Speed Freaks, which is a big game coming up. It looks really fun. Think something like Cross Out or Twisted Metal, but with orcs. And being a massive 40k fan, that is exactly the kind of thing that's up my street. Anyway, I've been Camber Run, and thank you for watching.